The world of luxury cars has always been full of power, speed, and exclusivity, but now it is facing something very different. A company that has built its name over more than a century is suddenly standing in front of a problem that could change everything for them. Bugatti, one of the most famous car brands in the world, is now being pushed into a situation where it may lose control over something it has always protected very tightly. This is not about speed records or expensive designs anymore. This is about control, ownership, and who really has the right to decide what happens to a car after it's sold. For years, companies like Bugatti have operated in a system where they decide who can repair their cars, who can access parts, and who is allowed to even touch the vehicle. But now, that system is being challenged in a serious way. Governments, mechanics, and even car owners are starting to push back. They are asking a simple question. If you buy a car, shouldn't you have the full right to fix it anywhere you want? This question may sound simple, but it is creating a huge problem for companies that are used to having full control. The situation is becoming more intense because of new laws being prepared in Europe, which could force companies like Bugatti to change the way they operate forever. If these rules come into full effect, they will not just affect one company, but the entire car industry. And the reason this story is getting so much attention is because it is not just happening quietly behind the scenes. It has become very public, very visible, and very hard to ignore. The story became even more popular because of a well-known car YouTuber named Mat Armstrong, who is famous for rebuilding crashed and damaged supercars. His videos have attracted millions of viewers because they show something people rarely see: the process of bringing destroyed cars back to life. At one point, he managed to get his hands on a heavily damaged version of the Bugatti Chiron Per Sport, which is one of the most expensive and advanced cars ever made. Normally, when a car like this is badly damaged, it is written off by insurance companies and never seen on the road again. But Matt decided to do something different. He wanted to rebuild it completely, step by step, and show the entire journey on camera. At first, it looked like just another exciting project, but things quickly became complicated when he needed original parts to continue the rebuild. He reached out to Bugatti, expecting to buy the parts like any customer would. However, the response he received was not what he expected. The company refused to sell him the parts he needed. This was not just a small problem. Without those parts, the rebuild could not continue properly. This moment turned a simple rebuild project into something much bigger. It raised questions about whether companies should have the power to block someone from repairing a car they legally own. It also made people wonder how many others had faced the same situation, but never had the platform to talk about it. As the story spread, more people started to realize that this was not just about one YouTuber or one car. This was part of a much larger issue that has been quietly affecting the automotive world for many years. Many car manufacturers, especially those that make high-end or luxury vehicles, have built systems that limit who can repair their products. These systems often include restricted access to parts, special tools that only official dealerships have, and software that only authorized technicians can use. This means that even if a skilled mechanic has years of experience, they may still not be able to repair certain cars simply because they do not have access to the right tools or information. Companies argue that this is necessary to maintain quality and safety, especially for complex machines like hypercars. But critics say that this system is unfair and gives too much control to the manufacturer. It can also make repairs extremely expensive because customers are forced to go through official channels that charge very high prices. Over time, this has created frustration among car owners and independent mechanics alike. They feel locked out of a system that should be open, especially after a product has been sold. This growing frustration is one of the main reasons why governments are now stepping in to create new rules that protect consumer rights. One of the most important developments in this situation is the introduction of new right to repair laws, especially in the European Union. These laws are designed to give consumers more control over the products they buy, including cars. The idea is simple. If you own something, you should be able to repair it, modify it, or take it to any technician you trust. To make this possible, companies may be required to provide access to spare parts, repair information, and diagnostic tools. For manufacturers like Bugatti, this could mean a major change in how they operate. They would no longer be able to fully control who repairs their cars or where those repairs take place. While this may sound like a positive change for consumers, it creates serious challenges for companies that are built on exclusivity and strict control. Bugatti, for example, is not just selling cars. It is selling an experience, a brand image, and a level of quality that they carefully manage. Losing control over repairs could affect how their cars perform, how they are perceived, and how their brand is maintained. This is why the situation is becoming so intense. It is not just about laws and rules. It is about the future of an entire business model. As the deadline for these changes gets closer, the pressure on companies like Bugatti continues to grow. And what started as a single rebuild project has now turned into a global discussion that could reshape the automotive industry. As the story continues to grow, the focus slowly shifts from one rebuild project to a much larger battle that has been building for years. What seemed like a simple disagreement between a car company and a YouTuber is now becoming a symbol of a global issue. At the center of the situation is a powerful idea called the right to repair. This idea is not new, but it has only recently started gaining serious attention from governments and lawmakers. The goal is simple: to give people full control over the products they own. For many years, companies have designed systems that keep that control in their own hands. They decide who can fix a product, who can access parts, and who has the tools needed to do the job. This has been especially common in industries where products are complex, like smartphones, electronics, and high-end vehicles. But now, lawmakers are starting to question whether the system is fair. In places like the European Union, discussions have turned into action. New laws are being prepared that could force companies to open up their systems and give access to independent mechanics and everyday customers. This is not just a small update. It is a major shift that could change how entire industries operate. For companies like Bugatti, which have built their identity on control and exclusivity, this could feel like a direct challenge to everything they stand for. The possible impact of these new rules is huge, and it goes far beyond one brand. If these laws are fully enforced, companies may no longer be able to refuse the sale of spare parts to independent buyers. They may also be required to provide access to repair manuals, diagnostic software, and special tools that were once only available to official dealerships. This means that a skilled mechanic working in a small workshop could have the same technical access as a technician inside a luxury showroom. For many people, this sounds like a fair and necessary change. It could lower repair costs, increase competition, and give customers more freedom. But for manufacturers, the situation is much more complicated. They worry about safety, quality, and brand reputation. A hypercar is not like a regular vehicle. It is a highly engineered machine where even a small mistake can lead to serious problems. Companies argue that by controlling who works on their cars, they can make sure everything meets their high standards. If that control is taken away, they fear that poorly done repairs could damage their image. Imagine a badly repaired hypercar failing on the road, and people blaming the brand instead of the mechanic. This is one of the biggest concerns companies have, and it is why they have resisted these changes for so long. However, the pressure is not only coming from lawmakers, it is also coming from the public. Stories like the one involving Mat Armstrong have made the issue much more visible. Millions of people have now seen what happens when someone tries to repair a car but is blocked by the manufacturer. This kind of exposure makes it harder for companies to quietly continue their old practices. It also builds support for new laws because people can clearly see the problem. Independent mechanics, who have been dealing with these challenges for years, are also speaking up more than ever. They argue that they have the skills and experience needed to do the job, but they are being unfairly restricted. Many of them have spent decades working on cars, yet they are locked out of repairing certain models simply because they do not have official approval. This creates a system where knowledge and skill are not enough. Access becomes a real power. And that is exactly what the right to repair movement is trying to change. It wants to shift that power back to the owners and the independent professionals who serve them. Another important part of this story is the legal risk that companies could face if they do not adapt to these new rules. If laws are passed and companies fail to follow them, they could face serious consequences. These might include heavy fines, legal challenges, or restrictions on their ability to operate in certain markets. For a company like Bugatti, Europe is not just another region. It is the place where the brand was born and where much of its identity comes from. The historic town of Molsheim is closely connected to the company's history and image. Losing access to the European market, even partially, would not just be a financial loss. It would be a symbolic one as well. It would send a strong message to the entire industry that no company is above the law. At the same time, there is also the possibility of legal action from customers and mechanics. If people feel that they were unfairly denied the right to repair their own property in the past, they may try to challenge those decisions in court. This could lead to a wave of cases that further increase pressure on manufacturers. Even if not all of these cases succeed, the attention and cost involved could still have a major impact. As all of this unfolds, other luxury car brands are watching very closely. Companies like Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Porsche have operated under similar systems for many years. They also rely on controlled networks of dealerships and specialized technicians. If one company is forced to change, it is very likely that others will have to follow. This turns the situation from a single company issue into an industry-wide moment. Everyone is waiting to see how strict the new rules will be and how strongly they will be enforced. Some companies may choose to adapt early and avoid conflict, while others may try to resist and protect their existing systems. Either way, change now seems unavoidable. The balance of power is slowly shifting, and the companies that fail to recognize this may find themselves struggling in the future. In the end, what makes the situation so important is not just a legal or financial side, but the bigger idea behind it. And as this new chapter begins, the entire world will be watching to see how brands like Bugatti respond to one of the biggest challenges in their history. As this situation continues to unfold, it is becoming clear that what is happening to Bugatti is not an isolated event. Instead, it is part of a much larger shift that is slowly changing the relationship between companies and customers across many industries. For decades, manufacturers have been moving towards systems that give them more control even after a product is sold. This is especially true in modern vehicles, which are no longer just mechanical machines, but highly advanced systems filled with software, sensors, and digital controls. These systems allow companies to monitor performance, manage updates, and even restrict certain functions. While this level of control can improve safety and performance, it also raises an important question. How much control should a company have after a customer has already paid for a product? This question is now at the center of a global debate, and the automotive industry is one of the main battlegrounds where this debate is taking place to end the past. Owning a car meant having full control over it. You could take it to any mechanic, modify it however you liked, and repair it using parts from different sources. But modern cars have changed that idea completely. Today, many vehicles rely on software systems that can only be accessed with special tools or permissions. This means that even if a mechanic knows exactly what needs to be done, they may not be able to complete the repair without access to the right software. In some cases, cars can even detect when they have been repaired outside an official network, which can lead to warnings or restrictions. For high-end vehicles like those made by Bugatti, these systems are even more advanced and tightly controlled. This creates a situation where ownership feels limited, because the customer is still dependent on the manufacturer for many important functions. The right to repair movement is trying to change this by making sure that customers and independent professionals have the access they need to work on these vehicles freely. The growing influence of the European Union is playing a major role in pushing this change forward. The EU has already taken steps in other industries to improve consumer rights, and now is focusing more attention on the automotive sector. The goal is not to harm companies, but to create a fair balance between protecting innovation and ensuring that customers are not locked into restrictive systems. Lawmakers understand that companies invest huge amounts of money into research and development, and they need to protect that investment. However, they also believe that once a product is sold, the customer should have certain basic rights. These include the ability to repair the product, choose where to service it, and access the information needed to keep it running. Finding the right balance between these two sides is not easy, and that is why the process is taking time. But the direction is clear: more openness, more access, and more rights for consumers. At the same time, technology continues to evolve, making this issue even more complex. Modern vehicles are becoming more connected than ever before, with features like remote updates, digital diagnostics, and advanced driver assistance systems. These technologies rely heavily on software, which gives manufacturers even more control over how the vehicle operates. For example, A company could release an update that changes how a car performs or even disable certain features if specific conditions are not met. While this can be useful for improving safety or fixing problems, it also raises concerns about control and ownership. If a company can change how your car works at any time, do you really have full control over it? This is one of the key questions that the right to repair movement is trying to address. It is not just about fixing broken parts. It is about defining what ownership means in a world where software plays a major role. For content creators like Mat Armstrong, this shift represents both a challenge and an opportunity. On one hand, restricted access makes it harder to complete rebuild projects, especially when dealing with rare and complex vehicles. On the other hand, these challenges create compelling stories that attract large audiences. People are naturally interested in seeing barriers being broken and problems being solved. When a creator takes on a project that seems impossible and finds a way to succeed, it creates a powerful narrative that keeps viewers engaged. This is one of the reasons why stories like this become so popular. They're not just about cars. They are about overcoming obstacles and challenging systems that seem unfair. As laws begin to change, creators may find it easier to access the parts and tools they need, which will lead to even more ambitious projects in the future. Looking ahead, the future of the automotive industry may depend on how well companies adapt to these changes. Brands that are willing to embrace new rules and find creative solutions could come out stronger. For example, they might develop new business models that focus on collaboration rather than control. Instead of restricting access, they could offer official support programs for independent mechanics, provide training and certification, and create partnerships that ensure quality while still allowing flexibility. This approach could help maintain high standards while also meeting the demands of new regulations. On the other hand, companies that resist change may face increasing pressure from both regulators and customers. In a world where information spreads quickly and public opinion can shift rapidly, maintaining a positive image is more important than ever. Another important aspect to consider is how this change could influence other industries. The right to repair movement is not limited to cars. It is also affecting electronics, home appliances, and many other products that rely on complex systems. Decisions made in the automotive sector could set an example for how these issues are handled elsewhere. If strong rules are introduced and successfully enforced, it could encourage similar actions in other fields. This would create a broader shift toward greater consumer rights and more open systems. For companies, this means that adapting to these changes is not just about solving one problem. It is about preparing for a future where customers expect more control and transparency in everything they view. Why did I end conclusion? What started as a single story involving a damaged hypercar has grown into something much bigger. It has become a symbol of a changing world where traditional ideas about ownership are being challenged and redefined. For Bugatti and others like it, the road ahead may not be easy, but it is also full of possibilities. Change always brings uncertainty, but also creates opportunities for growth and innovation. As laws evolve and technology continues to advance, the companies that succeed will be the ones that find the right balance between control and freedom. And for customers, this could be the beginning of a new era, one where owning something truly means having the power to decide what happens to as the situation continues to develop. One of the most important factors that will shape the outcome is public perception. In today's world, a company's reputation can change very quickly, especially when millions of people are watching and sharing their opinions online. For Bugatti, this is a serious challenge because its brand is built almost entirely on image, trust, and exclusivity. Unlike mass-market car companies that rely on high sales volume, Bugatti depends on a small group of very wealthy customers who expect perfection in every detail. These customers are not just buying a vehicle. They are buying a complete experience that includes service, prestige, and a feeling of being part of something rare. If that experience starts to feel restricted or unfair, it could slowly damage the trust that the brand has built over many years. Trust plays a huge role in the luxury market. When someone spends millions of dollars on a car like the Bugatti Chiron or the Bugatti Divo, they expect not only top performance, but also complete peace of mind. They want to feel that the company stands behind them and supports their ownership journey. However, when stories begin to spread about people being denied access to parts or being restricted in how they can repair their own vehicles, that sense of trust can start to weaken. Even if these situations are rare, they can still have a powerful impact because of how quickly information spreads online. A single viral story can reach millions of people and shape how they view a brand. This is exactly what happened when Mat Armstrong shared his experience. His audience did not just see a rebuild project. They saw a conflict between an individual and a powerful company. And in many cases, people naturally support the individual, especially when the situation appears unfair at the same time. Bugatti is not the only company facing this kind of pressure. Other high-end brands like Ferrari and Lamborghini are also known for having strict control over repairs and servicing. These companies have built their systems over many years to ensure quality and protect their reputation. From their point of view, allowing unrestricted access to parts and tools could lead to problems that are difficult to control. For example, if an unqualified mechanic attempts a complex repair and something goes wrong, it could create safety risks and damage the brand's image. This is why many manufacturers believe that their current systems are necessary. They are not just trying to control customers. They are trying to protect the integrity of their products. However, this argument does not always convince the public, especially when it seems to limit customer freedom. Another important factor is the role of media and online platforms in shaping the narrative. In the past, issues like this might have remained hidden or discussed only within small communities of car enthusiasts. Today, platforms like YouTube and social media allow stories to spread globally within hours. Content creators can highlight problems, share their experiences, and gather support from large audiences. This creates a new kind of pressure for companies because they are no longer dealing only with regulators or customers. They are also dealing with public opinion on a massive scale. When a story gains attention, companies often have to respond quickly to avoid further damage to their reputation. In some cases, they may even change their policies or approach simply to manage how they are perceived. This shows how powerful media has become in influencing business decisions as the debate continues. It is also important to consider the economic impact of these changes. If right-to-repair laws are fully implemented, they could create new opportunities for small businesses and independent workshops. Mechanics who were previously excluded from working on high-end vehicles could now enter a new market. This could lead to job creation, increased competition, and more options for customers. At the same time, it could reduce the profits that manufacturers and official dealerships earn from servicing and repairs. For luxury